right here, we are inside of the EVERBEE app. Okay. So before, if you remember, if you're a, old schooler like me, when it comes to the Etsy game, when you would load up a page on Etsy, which you still can do, you have a Chrome browser, and then you'll see, and Chris, maybe afterwards you can pull that one up. Maybe just pull up Etsy, and then you'll see the skin over top of it. We can show like how you can kind of see some numbers if you're just on Etsy and you're doing some research there. I actually prefer this here myself personally, because number one, I don't have to deal with all of the Etsy stuff that's going on, right? Like, oh, there's a slide in, there's a sale going, or, I'm seeing all of the different ads and all of that stuff. I don't have to bother with any of that stuff. What I'm really doing here is I'm just sifting through the data, right? That's all that I'm doing. And this new shop analyzer, they just added this here recently. This has been really good. And if you're just getting started and you want to find a niche, or if you want to explore a niche, this is definitely very, very helpful. And I'm going to give you a few examples on how I would drill into this, whether it's for the niche that we're currently in, or if it's going to be for new niches that we want to either bolt on, or if we're just starting from scratch. All right. So let me get started here. I'm going to get on over here to the screen that I'm in, trying to navigate here. So this is everything. Like, this is everything in Etsy right now that's been pulled in. And you can see quickly analyze all products in a shop and find top sellers. All right. So this is the new shop analyzer, which, by the way, Chris, we didn't mention this. If you guys want to give this a shot, the new web app and really the Chrome extension, just go to brandcreators.com/EVERBEE. Again, that's brandcreators.com/EVERBEE. Yes, you would buy us a cup of coffee. We are an affiliate for them, but we've been using them almost since day one. And that's the only tool that we use. We even use them for our email marketing side of things, because they have that too. But today we're just going to be talking about the product research side and the niche research. All right. So this is giving us all the numbers. Now, the cool thing is, if I kind of scroll to the right here, you can see a lot of the other information, right? We can see how old the shop is. This shop is 121 months old. It's been on there a while, right? And you can see the total revenue, monthly revenue, all of this stuff like this. And this is millions, by the way, guys. This is millions. Total sales, 3 million sales. So these stores have been around a little while. All right. Now, the cool thing that I can do, though, if I want to, is they've got these here. I can customize, I can filter, and I can export some stuff. If I go into filters right now, you're going to see this little drop down, right? Let me scroll over here. So here, this is like your max revenue. And then we have shop age, we have shop reviews. What if I just wanted to go in here? This is one thing that I like to do and say, okay, for the shop age, I only want to see shops that are 18 months old. That's it. And then boom, it's going to automatically give me all of those shops. All right.
So Scott, why would you do that?
Great question. And I know that you're setting me up. So thank you, Chris, for that. Yeah. So the reason why we're doing this is because instead of looking at a shop that's been around for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, we want to look at something that's somewhat new. And 18 months, and if you're just starting on Etsy, or if you're trying to rebrand or pivot or anything, you got to give it some time. Like 12 to 18 months is generally a good rule of thumb. But what I'm doing here is I'm trying to filter out some of those other shops that just have history. And I'm trying to see what is done good in the last 18 months. And I can do this for 12 months. I can do it for 6 months. I can do all of that. So this is giving me not a listing. This is the actual shop age, right? And so we're looking at these right now. So we can look over here and go, okay. And now, once again, though, this is like random niches. Like, this is just all of the niches coming into one. Okay. And we're going to show you in a minute here. We can search per niche that we want to look into. So with that being said, let's just kind of play around here. So if I wanted to sort this by total, which it looks like it's already doing, but sometimes it doesn't, I would click on here. Obviously that's 0. And then I would go here, and then this gives me them in chronological order, right? So Peach Custom Shirts, Goldie Mox Studio, New Tea Apparel, Pretty Tees, Berry Littles. Okay, so these are all the ones that I sorted in chronological order for total revenue. Then I can do total sales. I can do monthly sales, which you can see here, monthly sales changes, right? So even though, this one here is the top, it's gotten 3,900 sales. This here has more sales, but this one made more or generated more, I should say, right? They might sell a more expensive product to get there. Or actually they might, because let's see, they have less monthly sales. They're here. This has more. So it kind of, I guess it kind of coincides. Monthly revenue here. So, and again, we can sort by these numbers if we want to. We can also filter. We can say we only want to see shops that are, let's see here, maybe their monthly sales. I want to make sure that they have, I don't know, let's say 1,000 monthly sales. And it's going to automatically sort. Let me go back here now for here now. Okay. So it's going to start here at 1,000. Now that's max. I didn't give it a minimum. Maybe let's say that's, I wouldn't want to go by max. I'd want to go by minimum. Let me say minimum. Let's go 1,000 minimum. Now here we go. Right. So now this is showing me, okay, this has had 1,000 minimum sales. I don't want to see anything that's got, 50 sales or 500 sales. I want to see 1,000 plus. So you can play around with this. You can do monthly revenue here. Again, total sales. I can have it say, okay, the shop name, I want it to include wedding. And then I would put in here wedding. And then it's going to automatically do that. So here we are, wedding gift towels. That came up, bedwedding art. Okay. Or bedwedding.
Bedwedding. I don't think that's the niche.
That's a different niche, Chris.
It's a very different niche. At least we hope it is.
That's fantastic. Wedding art is what we were talking about there. You can see we can do that for just about anything. We can go garden and see if anything comes up. Yep. Garden hoe market. Mommy and me garden, I think it is. Right. So we can play around with this. So super, super powerful, right? To be able to do this. Now, the filters have always been there. The shop analyzer wasn't, which is really, really awesome that they allow us to do that. So with that being said, Chris, is there anything I'm leaving out here before we get into a little bit more granular looking at certain niches, and then we can start looking at products?
Yeah, I think even before you get into filters, if you have an idea of a niche, Scott, that search at the very top will allow you to kind of drill into that as well. Now, I believe, and unless this has changed since I was playing around with it a few weeks ago, that will do the same thing as filtering by the shop name, because we're looking at the shop level. So if we type in garden up there, it will automatically do that filter for us, and it will only find things that have that, and it'll allow us to find specific shops, or we can do the entire niche that has something like garden in the name. Right. And so one of the things that's cool with that, if you go back up to the top, it'll give you some auto suggestions for shop names. And it will tell you when it started. It doesn't give you the sales or anything like that at that generic search level, but it does give you a pretty good idea of some of the top shops in that space from an auto suggest standpoint, which is always an interesting place to start. But if you have a little bit more of an idea, or you want to layer some of those things on there, which I think is where most people miss out. They miss out on that filters feature, and they just look at everything, and that's fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with that.
Right.
The nice thing about the filters is we can eliminate 3/4 of the work by saying, I don't want to look at a shop that has one sale and is brand new. That's irrelevant to me if I'm trying to evaluate a niche. And so if you're using the filters here, which most people don't, I would be curious to get the data from EVERBEE about how many people are using that. But it's a feature that people sleep on, and they end up having to do a heck of a lot more work than they otherwise would need to.
Yeah, I'm curious too. In the comments, let us know if you're using EVERBEE right now. Are you using the filters? Let us know in the comments. I'd like to know. Chris would like to know, because I think it's an underutilized feature in there. And the filters have been there a while, but they haven't been used. The shop analyzer, completely different. All right. But I think this is really good too. Like you said, Chris, like if we said, okay, let's do wedding for the auto suggest, and let's see what it says. Okay. So this shop was started in 2023, 2024, 2017, 2021, 2021. So I could literally click on that and it'll take me to the shop data for that. Right. Or I can just go, let me just get all the wedding stuff in. Right. And I'm not filtering anything down. So this is like, I can go here and sort for total revenue, which it looks like it's already doing. Or I can go monthly sales, which will change. So let me go here and go back. Okay. So we have all of these. Okay. And then we can go, okay, well, now that we're in wedding, let's go ahead and say, we want to see, let's see here. Let's just say that we want to look at a shop that's only 18 months old. Boom. There we go. Okay. And there's that wedding gift towels and the bee wedding art. All right. So there they are, right? They're in there. Okay. But there's also other ones, right? This is only 4 months old. Okay. Wedding beach towel, right? Now, one thing I want to throw this out here, like someone that is coming in here and they're like, okay, I want to start a wedding shop and I'm going to do it all about gift towels, or I'm going to do it all about beach towels, right? I would say you'd be better off to be more, you're all about wedding, right? That's your overarching niche. But then you're like, oh, someone's got a shop that's doing pretty well with wedding beach towels. Let's offer wedding beach towels. Oh, and let's maybe we'll offer wedding gift towels like the ones that you would have that you would put into your kitchen, right? This completely different one. Okay, now we're getting product ideas just from the shop names.
I think this is an interesting phenomenon, I think is the word that I'm looking for. People think, and Scott, you and I are fans of having niche-related keywords in the shop title. I will tell you that is not going to make the difference by calling, you're not going to rank number 1 for wedding towels just because you have that in the shop name, right? And the only thing that really does is it ends up limiting you long-term, because if somebody comes to wedding beach towels and you start selling wedding pajamas, that can feel weird to people. So to your point, I think it makes a lot more sense to start to look at a more generic name that still has the keywords in it for the niche, like Scott's Awesome Wedding Emporium or something like that, right? Etsy's still going to understand what your listings are about. Etsy's SEO algorithm is not something that happens because of the shop name. It has much more to do with individual listings. Where the shop name comes in handy is the repeat customers or the people who do make it to your shop. That's where things start to really play. And so if we limit ourselves in the shop name because we're trying to rank for a very specific keyword, that can actually backfire long term. Kristen in the comments, Scott, was saying, is there a way to filter by shops that don't use ads so I can see organic sales data? What are your thoughts on even trying to do that? There's not a filter for that. And the answer is, or the question is, does that matter? Is that something we should take into consideration, or is a sale a sale a sale?
No, I personally think a sale's a sale. Like to me, I'm just looking at demand. That's all I'm looking for. I don't care how the demand came. It's happening on Etsy. It's not like that traffic was over on Facebook and someone drove traffic. Now they could, but I would be willing to bet 98% of people are not driving external traffic from Facebook unless it's like an organic post or they have a little bit of a following. But most people are getting most of their traffic from the Etsy platform. And yes, you can argue and say, well, some people are probably getting it from Google ads because Etsy's advertising that. That's part of the Etsy ads tool feature, right? Built in, right? So yes, they are, but it's still an Etsy ad. So no, to me, I'm just looking at like how many people actually bought this thing on Etsy. Like, well, I think yes, we have to do that marketing maybe with Etsy ads. That's part of it. You and I've talked about that a lot, right?
I think there's two different things people would have concerns with. And I'm assuming what Kristen is talking about are the pay-per-click ads within the Etsy ecosystem. Yeah. You brought up something, you said external traffic. And if we only see one shop here that is doing well, that may be a concern. But if we see 10, 20, 30, 40 that are doing well, that's not something that we need to take into consideration. And to your point, whether they're getting that click from ads or from organic, consumers don't really know the difference between an Etsy ad and an organic Etsy listing. So from that perspective, demand is demand is demand. No one really understands the difference on the consumer side. Even though Etsy puts ad on it, no one knows that that's an ad except for sellers who have run ads and are looking for that. So that demand is what we are looking for. The question then becomes, do we need to run ads to stay competitive? And the answer to that is you should be running ads anyway, as long as they're working, right? Yeah. So I would not worry about that at this stage, unless there's one standout. And you and I talked about a shop in the past. I believe they sell woodworking templates, and there's not a lot of demand within the Etsy ecosystem, but they still do really well. And they would show up somewhere like here because they have a lot of organic sales. Now that traffic is coming from outside of Etsy. That traffic actually comes from their YouTube channel in a lot of cases. And so even if we did layer on a filter of not using Etsy ads, which isn't an option now, at least as far as I'm aware, Cody, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but even if we did that, that shop would still show up, right? So what we're looking for here is not, is somebody running ads or not? What are they doing? At this stage, we're just looking to see that there's multiple shops that have the demand. The logical follow-up that I know we're going to get to that, Scott, is how do we determine what demand is in a specific niche? And is there a way to easily do that using something like the new Shop Analyzer tool?
Well, yeah. And I think that this is exactly what demand is, right? Like, or finding the demand. Like, we want to look here and see total revenue, monthly sales, like monthly revenue, but we really care about like total sales tells us that's how many transactions happen. That's the big one, right? Yes, we want to know revenue. Yes, we want, because that stuff's important. But really, right now, we're talking about how many times has something been purchased? What is the demand level for that? And it's going to be different for everyone. Chris, you and I have talked about this probably a dozen times. It's like, you have to understand, what is your target? How many do you need to sell at a certain price point to make a certain amount profit that's going to get you to your goal, right? So if you're like, well, I just want to make $1,000 a month. Well, then you don't need as many sales as someone that wants to make $5,000 or $10,000. And also then you're looking at the profit margin. Is the product making $10 per sale? Or is it making $50 per sale? Well, you got to sell less to hit your number, right? So there's a lot of variables there. This to me is really just about this here, this column, total sales, that's total transactions that has happened. Now, one thing that is, happening right here, because I set this to where the age of this shop, that means that these sales that we're looking at are within the last 18 months. If I pull this filter off and say, well, I don't care, give me everybody, right? Then we're going to be able to go, oh, let's see here. Let me go to this side. Okay, now we're looking at this could be for 10 years, right? And then we can go, okay, total sales. Let's go here. Oops, one more time. There we are. So 660,000 from this one. We got 353 from this one, 321. So we can add all these up and go, that's the demand, right? For lifetime demand, right? But we're like, well, wait a minute. Let's just go ahead and see, let's go ahead and see here. If I put in max age 12 months and let's see what we get. We're like, okay, cool. And let me go and make sure that we sort this. So we have 488 monthly sales here, but let me go over here. This is total sales. So this is your total sales for a year. Okay. For a shop that's only a year old. That doesn't mean it's across the entire, we've segmented it down to say the shops that have opened in the last 12 months, this is the demand that they got right here. And I'd say that's pretty good demand. If we look at this all the way down, right? You add all them up, you're like, okay, there's demand. Now, these are all different products, they're not all the same products. So then we'd have to do the research to go, okay, what products are they selling? And that's where we'd start to really, drill in. But the one thing I was saying, Chris, in the beginning, and I was kind of alluding to, like, that one thing that a lot of people don't do. Number one, they don't use the filters, but in the filters, it's this little column, shop age and listing age. So when we get into the listing reviews, we can go, okay, how old is this listing now? Right. And we can kind of start playing around with that. So what I'd like to do, let's go back here let's go to 18 months. Cause I want to see that. And I want to look at this one, the wedding gift towels. They are actually, let's see here. I'm scrolling across. They're, how old is their shop right now? It is 18 months. So it's right on the edge. It's right at the max. So if we click in now, and then I got to share this tab with you. There we are. Can you see that, Chris?
I can.
Okay. So now, and this is, Chris, I know you love this. Your eyes are just glowing with like, oh my gosh, look at all this data that we can plow through. What do you like most about this?
There's a couple things. One, it gives us a nice snapshot of the shop. But the real thing I would be looking at is the next section down, because we already have an idea of what their monthly sales and the monthly revenue are. But the first thing I would be looking at here are the shop stats and also the price breakdown, because I think this is something that's important. We can backwards engineer, okay, here's the average price point that they're selling something. But knowing the most expensive thing and the least expensive thing in a shop is really interesting to me, because it tells me where that average actually is weighted, right? So if we're selling a bunch of things at $105, but the vast majority of our sales are $5 or our listings are $5, that makes a difference in terms of overall profitability. So that price breakdown section, I think, is really interesting. And what EVERBEE is telling us is that average price of a listing in the shop is $23. That's kind of right in that sweet spot, right? We have some things that are 5 to 16, and it looks like the majority of their listings are under 27, but they do have a big chunk of things that are 27 to that 105 mark, which is that top end of what we see in this shop. But the other thing is the shop stats, right? Because what we're looking at here is not just the total revenue or the average price, but the review ratio. So how many people are reviewing the products and how many listings they have. And I think this is a place where people, again, are missing out on data, kind of like the filters. If we saw this shop, Scott, and they had this same number of sales, but they had 2,600 listings, so 2,600 listings, would you still consider this to be a good example? I probably would not, right? Because it means they're listing a bunch of stuff that isn't selling. And that's where this last column and row, the sales per listing, I think is a really interesting stat that a lot of people don't know exists because it's part of the new experience. And so what they're saying is they average 50 sales per listing, which is really interesting to me. If that number is 5, it means they're listing a lot of stuff that isn't selling or isn't selling very well. Now, obviously, they don't know every individual sale, and they're not saying everything has sold at least 5. They're saying this is the average. And the higher that average is, the better job they did of really nailing something that consumers are already looking for. They're not listing a bunch of stuff that isn't being bought. They're listing things that people are looking for. So the higher that number is, the better indication that they're doing the correct thing from a product perspective. Again, we haven't even gotten to the product research side of this yet.
Right.
But if I have 2 or 3 examples that I'm starting to look at, I see one that's 5, one that's 50, and one that's 500. You better believe that I'm going to start with the shop that has 500 sales per listing just to see what it is that they're doing, because it means they've really nailed it. 50 is really good.
Yeah.
Again, if we saw 5, I probably would put that one to the side just to say, hey, maybe they're doing some things, or maybe they just launched a bunch of products. But let me start with the better examples, that 50 and the 500 sales per listing.
Yeah. And if we look here, I mean, they give you, like you said, Chris, this is like a great snapshot of everything, but it gives you a lot of data, like real quick to look at, like monthly sales, monthly revenue, total sales up here, average, your reviews, the shop when it started. Again, that we know that this is 18 months because that's how we found it. We searched for only 18 months. So yeah, there's a lot of great info here. So if we go into the listings now, okay, this is where, like you were saying, Chris, now we can really start to explore and see what kind of rises to the top, right? And so we're looking at this. This is a personalized beach towel, it looks like. Okay, personalized beach towel gift, bridesmaid gifts, bachelorette party favor, wedding gifts, bridesmaid gifts. Okay, now that's only $7, which is really low. Okay, one thing we've always talked about, and I don't know how they're selling it for $7. And maybe if we clicked in and we saw like maybe there's options for different sizes and all of that stuff. But the bottom line is they're generating 717 sales. Chris, what does 717 people coming to a listing, what does that give people the opportunity for?
Well, first of all, I'm sitting in the 717 right now. So this was a good random example that you pulled. But I think it tells me that they're doing a good job. And I would agree with you, Scott. $7, that they're probably pulling the trick of like a tea towel or a napkin washcloth type of a thing at $7. And that's not what they're actually selling it for. That's just the lowest price that EVERBEE was able to pull off of this listing. But if we're seeing 717 monthly sales, means that listing is selling a ton every single month. And the question then becomes, what is their conversion rate? What does the traffic look like to get there? And Dana in the comments asked, you guys were talking about sales per listing, which again is what we're talking about here. Is that something that Etsy uses in the algorithm? The answer is not directly. But if you're listing things that are selling well, they're going to rank where, Scott? Not lower, higher. The more you sell, the higher your conversion rate, the better you are going to rank, because the goal of the Etsy algorithm, just like any algorithm, is to put the thing in front of the person that they're actually going to want. In the case of Etsy, it's the product that they're going to end up buying. And so the higher that sales per listing is, the higher the sales on the individual listing, the better off we are going to be, using that as an example. Now, the thing I would want to see here, Scott, is what is that conversion rate compared to some of the other things? What does the traffic on that listing look like? And we can dive into that individual thing and into that individual listing here in a minute and take a look. But we know, let's say that next one down was also a beach towel of some sort. I would be looking at the one that sells 717 before I'd be looking at the one that sells 395, unless there was a compelling reason, like the one that sells 395 is a brand new listing and it has a double conversion rate or something like that, right? They're selling at 10% instead of 5%, something like that.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. And if you notice here, like they are just selling basically towels, which they have an opportunity to do other things, but they're selling multiple towels because it's generally going to be for a wedding party, right? Or a bachelorette party or just bridesmaids, right? Like, so they're going off of like, there's going to be maybe 4, there's going to be maybe 8, right? And they're going to sell a bunch of those. But to your point, Chris, like you said, like this $7, I guarantee they're not selling them for $7. That's just what's being pulled in as like the front, right? And the other thing that this is doing that we don't see here is like, okay, they sold, 40 in a month of this one for $45. Well, who's to say that someone didn't come in from this listing and buy this, but then they also maybe bought this or this or this, because now maybe they have the bundle feature, right? That's on there. That's why we talk about why you want products that could be sold together. Okay. Now this is a little bit of like the same type of product, but if they had a towel and then they also sold something else that the ladies could wear, right? And we had another example before where a company was selling robes for the bridesmaids, and then they sold slippers, or they sold, the hair thing, like something that could be sold with it. And then once they get into the listing, they see those as other options. Moving forward in 2025, if I was starting over, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, how can we increase the value of the order? How can we increase that? Like, that's huge. So yeah. And the other thing we can do here, Chris, too, is if we wanted to filter their results, we can go into filters and go, hey, we just want to see, let's see, listings that have, listing age of only 6 months old. And then we can go, okay, that one there was done 6 months ago, right? So this shop is not that old, 18 months. And this listing was created 6 months ago, and it's one of their top, right? So brand new shop, kind of, right? It's under 2 years old. It's not like well seasoned, and they've got some great momentum, and they've launched a product in the last 6 months that's done really, really well. So we can sort by that. We can sort by all kinds of things in here, as you can see. So I'm going to take that filter off right now. If we want to get rid of that filter, we can just toggle that up, I believe. But we don't need to. We're going to leave it. Okay, let me go into this one real quick. And so now, as you see, this is the other cool thing, is it pops it right in there. I don't have to go over to the listing, which I can go over to the listing. But if we look at this now we get a little bit more at a glance once again, right? So we have 717. Here's your review to ratio. Your conversion rate, 6.34%, Chris. That's what you were looking for. 67,812 views, 533 reviews, favorited 2,281 times. That's important too, because you can see that people are buying it, but they're also, a lot of people are favoriting it. So there's a lot that we can see here. You can see, okay, the trends. Now this is new too. They have this in beta. This is in the EVERBEE app. And by the way, if you guys are just joining us, the EVERBEE app is what we're using. If you want to try this, we are an affiliate for it. You will buy us a cup of coffee. We're just transparent about that, but we use the tool every single day. If you want to try it, go to brandcreators.com/EVERBEE. Once again, that's brandcreators.com/EVERBEE. And you can give it a shot, and you can get access to all of this data, which is so valuable. The other thing they give you is the tags at a glance here, which is somewhat new. And then they show you the volume, they show you the competition, and all of that. We even have more details down here. The listing type, all of the things that the listing is basically on the back end is what's put in there. So a lot of great information here. And then this is really cool too, Chris. This is the sales over, the last 30 days. It's showing you like what it is. Now, one thing, if I wanted to, I could go in here and change the date, right? So I could go, oh, let's go in here. I believe I can. I might need to open that up. Maybe I have to open that up and that'll do it. I don't know. I haven't played around with that. It is in beta. So maybe that's something that they're going to be doing. And right now they're just giving you the last 30, but I'm pretty sure you'll be able to go in here and then sort, okay, I want to see what it was for the last 12 months. And then you'll be able to see month by month, which I think would be very, very cool. Okay, cool. So anything else there, Chris, that we want to look at? You can go into the shop details here. Anything else, Chris?
I think the biggest thing is just understanding what the traffic and conversion rate looks like once we get to this point, right? And we had somebody in the comments, Scott, asking where are they getting this data from? Etsy doesn't share the sales data, and the answer is it's based on their algorithm, right? They know the traffic, they know a lot of things about the listing, and you can backwards engineer that. Is the sales data 100% accurate? No, but it's pretty darn close, and we found in our experience that it's closer than anybody else's is, which is why we use EVERBEE. But the real reason you're using something like this is not because you're saying, hey, they're making exactly 395 sales a month. You're looking at this for directionality, right? Mm-hmm. And so what we're looking for here are products that are selling well over time, products that are being reviewed well over time, and products that have a high conversion rate. We know, generally speaking, 1% to 5% is considered the industry average. So if we're seeing something, and I think that was like 6.34, something like that, Scott.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
That listing is massively outperforming. And we have a pretty good idea of what sales are. We have a good idea of what traffic is, and we can backwards engineer that conversion rate. For above that 5% mark, it's a great listing to be looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm looking at right now, guys, I'm in the reviews section, and we talked about this last week, which is really powerful. So out of 1,855 reviews, there are 4. And right here, it's pulling in like these are the newest ones. So I'm looking and seeing what people are saying about the products. And this is something that we could get some intel about. We could say, oh, how can we make this product better? Like, what could we do better? So we might want to go in here and go, oh, let's look at the negative reviews, right? And then I can immediately see here, I was disappointed in the product I received. I ordered 2 tea towels as gifts. The last name on the towel was not even close, blah, 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 right? So for some reason, they must have messed up their personalization and now they left a negative review. That could have probably been handled before they left the review. Here's another one. Looks like the same person. The blanket came with some sewing errors and gaps in the fabric. I was able to fix myself, right? So that's quality. That's a quality issue. I was so disappointed. I ordered this Christmas present. The stitching is awful. So again, stitching, make sure our stitching is better, right? So we can learn from what people are saying that that wasn't good. And I can go to oldest. I can look and see. Okay. So there's a lot that you can do with the reviews filter, which I think is really cool as well. So that's kind of like a high level overview. Like if I'm going to be looking at finding products to sell in 2025, I'm probably going to start here. I'm not even going to go over to Etsy. I'm not going to, type in my stuff over there, get the results. I'm going to go right here and just get everything collected into one group. And then I'm going to start sifting using those filters. That's what I'm going to be doing.
So what exactly are you looking for here? Let's assume, because we're using the wedding niche as an example here, that you're thinking about starting a store or just looking for products in the wedding niche. Is it just that one product that you're looking for, or are you looking for trends? Like if somebody's sitting down to do this, what is it that you're looking for exactly?
It's probably going to be a little bit of, you're trying to see like, okay, number one, is there demand? Okay. For if and this goes for if you're like exploring the niche. If you're exploring the niche, we have to see if there's enough demand. We've said here, if we're using the wedding niche as an example, we're like, yes, obviously there is. But now how do I get into the niche? Right? So then I'm going to start seeing like, okay, what products are selling? What ones have been sold in the last 6 months, 10 months, that are not really aged. Same thing with the shop age, right? So I'm doing that as a competitive research part. Like how competitive is it that I would be able to get in here? From there, I'm going to start to see what products are being sold. Now, not just by one shop, I'm going to be looking at other shops, right? I'm not just going to be looking at this one shop. So again, if I wanted to say, okay, I want to look at another wedding store, because I'm going to just take the next one down on the list that's doing well. And they're not selling towels, they're selling candles. Right. And then I'm going to say, well, I'm going to have maybe a towel. I'm going to have a candle. Right. And then with that candle, I might have maybe 5 different variations of that candle. Okay. And then from there, I might be like, oh, bridesmaids. Someone is selling shirts for bridesmaids with, something, that represents their personality. Right. And I'm going to do those next. Right. So I'm trying to find products that are in here, not just from one shop, but from multiple shops that I can build a product line. That's what I'm trying to do. And I would say if you're just starting, or even if you're not starting and you're just trying to start down the road of building out a brand with multiple products, I would do this and I would try to come up with 3 to 5 products, because the 3 products are going to be great because you can bundle them together. And that's a great way to increase the order value, the order size. So hopefully that answered your question on that, Chris.
Yeah, realistically, what you're looking for here, Scott, are 3 to 5 products that would go well together. And the reason for that is twofold. One, we want people to be able to buy multiple things or come back again and again.
Yeah.
And 2, Etsy's bundle feature allows us to increase our average order size, our average cart value, and present those products to the same person, especially with something like this, where you're saying, okay, it's a wedding gift or a bridesmaid's gift or something like that. Mm-hmm. Instead of buying one $7 towel, I'm going to put together a really cool bundle for all of the people in my bridal party or all of my groomsmen, and have them have a few different personalized things. If they're already in that buying mode and all of the products go together, it becomes a lot easier to do. And so if we see one here, like the personalized beach towels that's selling $717 a month, that's cool. And that's a nice little product idea for us to jot down. But when we're doing the niche validation and when we're doing product research itself, we want to see multiple things in that same niche that are having success that would go well together, right? Maybe not personalized beach towels for a wedding or personalized beach towels for a bachelorette party and second anniversary gifts, right? Those 2 things, yes, would both fall under the wedding niche, but it's not something people would purchase together. And while those are both valid products and it's good signs and it's a good thing to see, it's not what we're looking for when we're doing the actual product research. What we want to see are things that are going to sell well together.
Yeah, for sure. Let me show one more quick example. I'm going to pull up the baby niche because that's another big one, right? So if we're in here, okay, and I just in the little search thing here, we've got baby, and then here, like you said, Chris, at a glance, we have all these, right? But I'm going to go and say, I just want all the ones in baby, okay? And then from here, I'm going to look here at shop age. Now you can see I already put this in here before I got on with everybody, but if we go here and just clear that out, it's going to give me all of the shops. Look at this is 175 months. So let me just go and I'm going to sort by the oldest, 224 months. Ugly baby. Funny. So, you can look at all of this. Now, some of these aren't getting any revenue because right now we're searching by this shop age. That's why what we want to do is we want to go something that has numbers. I'm going to go total sales, right? So if I go total sales, we got baby squishy cheeks. Okay. But if we look over here, it's 140 months old. So you might go, yeah, that's great, but I can't compete in this space. Well, we're not using this as, am I going to compete directly with them? I'm looking at this like that there's some demand here, right? But then I want to go, okay, let's look at a little bit more current and let's see if I can break into this niche. So that's why I would say, let's go 18 months. So I go 18 months and then I get this, right? And so now this here, baby staffers, I guess, I don't know. 26,374 sales, 495,000 in total revenue, 1,785 monthly sales, monthly revenue, right? So I'm like, that one there is 18 months old. Actually, let's see what the actual age is. Did I pass it? Yeah, it's exactly 18 months. This is 17 months. So this one here is 17 months and it's done 129,000, 10,000 monthly, 13,843 in total sales. And we've got this one, 210,000. So again, you see, this has more sales. This has more revenue, probably more expensive products, or well, they have less sales too. So now if I search by or sort by revenue, now we're going in a revenue category, right? So this is 2, this is 3, My Corner Baby, Happy Baby Print, Love You Baby, CA, Gina Baby Gift Shop. So you can just keep going down the list, but these are all sorted 18 months or less. Okay. So now if I said, okay, well, let's dive into this one right here. So now I'm going to dive into that one and I have to go and actually switch it over here to this tab. 26,374 sales. And then we're looking at the overall, look at $500,000 this shop has generated total, right? Average price, $19. So 19, most expensive, least expensive. So they don't have anything at a high ticket really. But again, the $7, they're probably not selling that for $7. Okay. Sales per listing, right about what that other one was, Chris, 51. Right. So this is all good. Now let's look at their listings real quick. Okay. And then once again, we can sort by different things if we want to. Let's go. And I'm curious, listing age, 15 months, 15 months, 18 months, 10 months, right? So these are all, again, within 18 months because the shop is only 18 months old. Okay. Now, if I hover over here, you can take a quick peek at this. So this says handmade rolls. That's cute. Okay. It's a cute little saying. And it's doing well. So it says $20. I bet it sells for more because they're going to have other options that you add on. Okay. But still, I'm looking at this. This is just one individual shop that's 18 months old. Demand. Is there demand? Heck yeah. You know what I mean? Like there's floods of demand. Okay. And let's see here. We've got multiple shirts here. Looks like a football theme of some kind. Right. So then if I want to go in here and I can go, okay, let's click in now. Let's get a little data on this. And let's see. It's converting at 2.44%. Not bad. Right? Not bad for having all that traffic. Okay. 189,000 views. There's your monthly. There's the age of the listing is 15 months. Okay. Visibility score. Then here we're looking at the trend over time, right? So November did a little better and probably because of, Thanksgiving and things, right? And then you can look down here, chunky baby shirt. Funny. So this gives you ideas also of like, okay, what are people searching for that I would want to put into my my title and into my tags and things like that, right? So we get all this information at our fingertips. So I think there's another really, really great. Now this says Thanksgiving, so you might be like, well, it's just for Thanksgiving. I would argue that I think, yeah, the color makes it feel like Thanksgiving, but I think handmade rolls could be any time of the year, personally. What's this one here? Guess what? Okay. Guess what? Chicken butt baby romper. So that's funny. So if we click on that, we can go into this one. This one's converting at 2.3%. And then we can go down here and we can go, okay, let's look at the tags. Guess what? Chicken butt. Guess what? Baby shower gift, farm baby, funny baby clothes. So it's giving me ideas here, all within just doing what I just did. And this is just one product. So it's funny because this shop isn't really selling on designs. They're selling on cute sayings. And so if you're thinking you got to be a great designer, I would argue and say, if you were a clever, like come up with like funny or really cute sayings and you're in the baby niche, you probably can do really well because it's unique. Yes, people can rip you off, but again, you might have your own style of font. You might have your own style just to begin with, right? So I would be looking at this going like, okay, cool. Let me kind of play off of some of these ideas. Yes, we're going to sell rompers. Yes, we're going to sell t-shirts. Yes, we're going to sell sweatshirts. We might even do a blanket for the nursery. We might do some things like that because now we can broaden that, but we're also going to get this intel by looking at the niche of the other shops that have done well in the last 18 months. And we're going to start pulling ideas from everybody. Make sense, Chris?
It does. And no offense to Mrs. Baby Staffas, but this is something I could design, to your point, Scott, right? Like I am not a designer. I know when something looks good, but I have almost no capacity to make it look good. But I can put a saying on a shirt and a chicken on the butt. And that is something I would be able to do. Now, obviously, I'm not going to steal that directly, but guess what? Chicken butt, right? Like we could have a turkey themed thing and just make it a little more Thanksgiving, right? Swap the chicken for a turkey, make it a little bit more Thanksgiving-y, I think is the word I'm going to go with, right? And come up with something, stuff like the turkey or something like that, right? And come up with some of my own designs. Again, we're not going to rip these things off directly, but we're going to use these for directionality. And if we find 2 or 3 shops that are doing well with really basic baby rompers and some funny sayings, then all we have to do is come up with the funny sayings. The mistake we see people make here is that they say, oh, okay, this is a funny sayings shop. It's not. It's a baby clothing store or a baby store. And if we're starting with that as the niche, then we can backwards engineer what's working for them and start to come up with our own ideas. We don't want to start with the product or the design. We want to start with the idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Here's the one thing I want to say, though. If you guys have noticed, like we looked at a niche and these shops have done well in a niche and their shop is built for the niche. So I just want to throw that out there because these have done really well. And I believe these will do well, way better than someone selling random stuff in a t-shirt shop, right? Because they're also going to get repeat customers. They're also going to have people say, hey, where did you get that? That's so cute. Oh, I went to whatever the name was, right, of the thing, but it's a wedding shop. It's a baby shop. And their style is these cute sayings with a certain font that they use, right? Like that's their thing. Okay. And maybe certain colors that they only put their stuff on. It's not going to be just all kinds of colors. It's going to be maybe 4 primary colors that they use, or they're going to use trending colors. Like maybe that's their thing. Okay. But what we just shared with you is proof that if you focus on a niche, okay, build a brand of products that people can buy over and over again and increases the order size, you can do very well in 2025 and beyond. And I should probably throw this out here. If you're interested in, we have what we call our 100K roadmap. It's a blueprint that we used doing similar to what they've done, is built a shop out that catered to a niche. If you want a copy of that, just put 100K in the comments, 100K in the comments, and we'll send you a copy of that guide. All right. And it walks you through the different steps that we took to be able to build that out. So you understand a 10,000 foot view, like what it looks like, because once you understand that, you start building a shop that caters to a customer that can come back again and buy, or buy more than one thing while they're in there. It's a total game changer. And this is what's going to be, to me and Chris, is going to be what's going to make it work for people in 2025. So if I was to start over today, that's what I'd be doing. All right, Chris, that was good. That was real good. I think so. Let us know in the comments if that was good. Did you guys get a lot of value from that? And if you guys do want to try EVERBEE, like I said, little shameless plug here, just go to brandcreators.com/EVERBEE. Once again, that's brandcreators.com/EVERBEE. And you can click on that and you can go over there and sign up. They do have a free trial. And then if you want to get all of the data and you want to upgrade to the growth plan, I recommend you do, because you're going to need that tool. And that tool to me is everything. Like that's all that we use. And it's gotten so robust. So I'm just scratching the surface on what you can do with it. All right.